Okay, so welcome, Nadra. I'm so happy you're a guest today on the Academy, and I know there's people that are going to be watching this later. Thank you, Tina, for joining us. And I am so excited to have Nadra share with us a lot more about just the basics, number one, of what the Gene Keys is, because many people are curious about it, but sometimes we have a hard time describing this massive piece of work. So I'm going to have Nadra share a little bit with you about what she does, how she got into the Gene Keys, why the Gene Keys she feels are a benefit to you. And then we're going to get into this beautiful energy of expansion and this gift of expansion. And anything else Nadra wants to share. So for those who don't know me, my name is Linda Galvan, and I'm a spiritual intuitive and a soul guide and a transformational facilitator for women. And I love working specifically with women to help them to align to their higher soul purpose and their mission in the world, because we need to be seen, we need to be heard, and we need to allow our personal talents to inspire. And so I always want to feature wonderful people who are doing that kind of work in the world, and Nadra's one of those. I call her my Gene Keys genius because she knows the Gene Keys in very deep and profound ways that I always learn something new every time I hear her speak about the Gene Keys. And for those of you who don't know, both Nadra and I, and there's two others, I think, here in Austin, who are Gene Keys ambassadors now. And so we are here to share and teach about the Gene Keys so that more people can hear about it. As Nadra mentioned in the email that I sent, it is a powerful transformational tool for our world. And so I am 100% behind any transformational tool that is aligned with truth and life and love and spirit. And the Gene Keys is aligned in that way. And so that's one of the reasons why I chose to be an ambassador of this work. And Nadra did as well. So I'm going to pass it on to you, Nadra, to share more about who you are, what you love about the Gene Keys, why it calls you to do what you do, which is being a Gene Keys navigator. I love that term.
Yes, thank you, Linda. It's really an honor to be here with you with this work that you're doing, and I'm really touched by everyone who comes to this work and who wants to work on themselves and bring healing to the world through their own transformation. And I love that you're facilitating that in the world, and everyone who comes here has a part in that too. And I'm privileged to be a Gene Keys navigator. That's not really a special distinction. It's just something that I do and that others benefit. It's a way that I can serve. And anyone can who really is in the Gene Keys and allows it to speak through them. I have spent time, cultivating that. A lot of time. I've gone to a lot of events that Richard has put on for the Gene Keys, the different sections of the Gene Keys, and there's courses and things that I've studied, and anyone can benefit from that, but you don't have to do that to benefit from the Gene Keys, because it's really about your own programming, how you were made, how we were created. So we all have certain patterns and codes in our bodies, and that's just scientifically the way how our bodies built, how our the building blocks of our body are made, or the way our cells create substances in our body and replicate and do all this stuff. So it's all based on how we function, and there's different ways that we have our own vibrational energy affects our body and our expression. And so there's a lot of things that we do already, just as when we gravitate towards spirituality, that will affect our Gene Keys already, without us having the words Gene Keys or having those labels for each one. There's 64 Gene Keys, and we don't have to necessarily know what those are and have all those words, but the words are really, really beautiful and helpful, and it helps us to understand those different 64 aspects of ourselves and the different levels in which they express. So that's really, I guess, big macrocosm, microcosm. The macrocosm is, I love it, and it really it's a part of nature and how nature expresses and how we fit into nature. And in the macrocosm, for me personally, it has really touched my life and really transformed my being. And it's been the tool that has allowed me to be more empowered as a human being and to be less of a victim in the world.
Yes. So Nadra, if people are still wondering, exactly what is the gene keys, like, like what would be the way that you would share it with someone who's maybe never heard of the gene keys, like just something that would maybe help them to understand, oh, okay, I think I understand what that is, and it sounds like it would be something that would benefit me. Like, what do you usually say to your clients or people that are interested when you tell them you're a Gene Keys Navigator?
Well, everyone has their own way of describing it because it's huge and complex, but the simplest way for me, because of the way that I approach it and the angle that I'm looking at it from, is for personal transformation. Okay. So I look at it as this is a roadmap that tells you how your own personal qualities can help you navigate through life.
Right.
So it gives you a specific profile of your own patterns, your own way of how the higher expression and the lower expression. So like our strengths and our weaknesses are, they're kind of the same thing. They're just the flip side. Yes. Of each other. So that's where it can be extremely helpful, especially in the beginning when you're just learning, is just to kind of get that sense of like all of our gifts, and all of our shadows have, they're two sides of the same thing. And we start to open and we start to relax a little bit about who we are. And we start to like just allow ourselves to be just exactly the way we are.
Yes. So what I'm hearing is that for you use the Gene Keys as a way to kind of navigate your life, who you are, the gifts you were born with, the challenges you were born with, the higher kind of angelic qualities that, of course, we're all born with. And you use the Gene Keys to help you understand yourself more and how you kind of fit into the greater world. Mm-hmm. And then also, it sounds like how the greater world, how it's evolving. Because that's one of the things I tend to get a lot from with the Gene Keys is that I realize, wow, there's so much positive hope, and we're literally evolving in a beautiful way. So for me, I always see the Gene Keys as this amazing roadmap, as you said, that shows us that we are actually evolving in a beautiful direction. That, even though it may look like things are falling apart and everything's going to chaos, things that maybe regular society and in social media and the news might say, oh, things aren't going well. In truth, this is just part of the evolution of our humanity, and that we can only go up. We're only spiraling up. We can't go backwards. And when I started reading about how our entire humanity is evolving, it made me feel so much happier, so much more hopeful. I'm like, oh, this feels good. Okay. So I love the Gene Keys because they're very uplifting in many ways and also very awe-inspiring. And in some cases, I'm just left with this, deer in the headlights. Sometimes when I read something, and it just takes me some time to I guess, process and integrate because it's so profound. The wisdom can be so profound, but yet so uplifting. That's why I love the Gene Keys. But yeah, I know that in the work you do, you work individually with people sometimes, and you also do some group work, right? Okay. So yes. How does that work? So if somebody is interested in like individual work with you or group work with you, how is it that you work with the Gene Keys and people individually or in group?
So usually for individual work, people will just, they'll want to understand something specific about, they'll have some, if they're already familiar with the Gene Keys, there'll be some stuck point. There'll be something that it's just like, this just bothers me. I can't get around this shadow thing or whatever. And that sometimes is where they start. Yeah. Doesn't have to be. I mean, I much prefer that they would just say, hey, I want to get to the next level in my life. Yeah. There are some who are ready for that.
Yeah.
But also we all have points in our life where there's like just something. It's like I know I can follow a higher path, have a higher response to this situation, but I just don't seem to be able to play that out in my actions. And so that's oftentimes where we will start. Or sometimes it'll just be a vague thing like I just want to see how my profile can help me to move.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
how would you describe the hologenetic profile? Like if somebody, because usually what I'll tell people, if you're interested in the gene keys, first get the book, and then second, go to the website and print out your hologenetic profile. And when I've done that with clients, they'll print out this profile. Hey, Africa. They'll print out their profile, and then they're like, what the heck is this? And they get scared, and I don't see them for a while. So how would you describe the hologenetic profile very simply, so that, let's say, somebody for the first time who's printed it out doesn't freak out and run away?
Yes, well, it is a lot. I must say, the first time I printed out mine, I didn't touch it again for a few days.
Exactly.
It might have even been a few weeks. I don't remember, but that was many years ago. It is, because it's like here's this, energetic map. Like there's a lot of just energy in there, in that, like, it's like the whole, your connection to the universe right there in all these details.
Yeah.
And the mind, isn't designed to take that all in at the same, all at once. Like we can take it in, it's just going to be, piecemeal.
Yeah.
So that's why it's designed to be, to look at, Richard Rudd recommends that we start with the first sphere at the top, and then we go over to the right, and then, and then to the left, and then down to the bottom. And all the stuff in the middle, we leave it for later.
Yeah. So this is my profile. It's a complete mess because it's my original one. I've written all over it. So if you just ignore all my writing and you see all those spheres, that's what an actual profile looks like. And you can go online to genekeys.com and print one out for yourself if you are new to this and you're just curious. But what I love about it is that it literally gives me a map. And what Nadra was just saying, just to point out this top sphere, I would just say, just start there. Just start with the top sphere. Oh, and it has hers in color. Great. And you just start out with that top sphere, and you look at the number in that sphere, and you find that chapter in the book, and I just start there. After you've read the intro at the beginning of the book, because I think many people skip that intro at the beginning of the Gene Keys book, and it is excellent for helping ground you into what the Gene Keys is. You hear directly from Richard what this whole thing is, the process of it, contemplation, how you navigate the work called the Gene Keys. So if you spend some time reading that intro section of the book, it really gives you a great foundation in the beginning.
Yes. Also, the main process with the Gene Keys is a very, very gentle, Richard calls it the process of contemplation. He actually recently put out a book just called The Art of Contemplation. That's a very good standalone thing that is helpful for anyone, whether or not you delve into the study of the Gene Keys or not.
Right.
And it really is a very gentle kind of, it's not meditation where we like go deep and, that helps. It helps actually for me to meditate in order to get a better contemplation.
Yeah.
And a much more effective, because I'm more grounded in my being. And the contemplation itself is much more just like what we do while we go about our day. We just let the awarenesses sink in, come up out of our belly, wherever our inspiration comes from. It's just like, Richard uses this metaphor of like, if you have this little velvet case that just feels like velvet fabric and you're just playing with it, you don't know how to open it, you don't even know what's inside. You just kind of play with it, and then, at some point your fingers just find the catch and it opens, and inside there's something important for you to understand and insight.
Yes.
So it's kind of this very playful, very relaxed approach. We're not trying to figure it out.
Yes.
We're just allowing our own being to give us feedback.
Yes. What I find interesting about the gene keys is that if you're very mental intellectual, you could get really lost in trying to understand, the work. And as you just said, that's not really what this work is for. It's actually a transmission. It's for you to be in a place of receptivity, to just receive the energy that is coming off the pages, the energy in the words, the energy that just by look, I mean, sometimes I'll just look at my profile. I won't try to figure it out. I'll just look at it, and I'll just look at the patterns, look at my shadows, look at my gifts, look at my higher, angelic qualities, and just sit with that energy and just receive the energy of it. And that sometimes alone creates like an energetic shift in me that I can't explain intellectually. I can't explain it in my mind, but I can feel it. And that's the same thing that happens when I'm working with any chapter in the book. It's like, whoa, just stuff starts moving. Literally right before the call, I was rereading aspects of the Gene Key 53. Is that the one we're working on, 53?
Yeah, 53, the gift of expansion.
Yeah, and we're going to go into that in just a second. And I already was just like, whoa, you get more sensitive to the energy over time. I think it's the more you work with the gene keys, the more sensitive you get to the energy, and the more I feel it sinks in for me than when I first began working with it. In the beginning, there was I felt some resistance. I loved it. I was pulled to it, but at the same time, I was like, whoa, and then I was pulled to it, and it was kind of this back and forth for about a year until finally I gave in and just dove into it. And as you said, it has made some profound shifts in my personal life and in my business. Just understanding myself more and what my gifts are. So
I love how you describe that, like the how the energy is moving, because it's also very intellectual, so it's very easy to get too much in our heads that we stop allowing that energy to move. And it's really the energy that's moving, that's talking to our bodies, it's talking to our DNA, that allows us to bring our vibration higher without a whole lot of efforting.
yes.
And so it's really beautiful. And that's why, when we hit those places of resistance, it's actually, what you were saying is beautiful. It's a beautiful way to just kind of like, okay, we don't have to push it. It's okay to just allow it to unravel on its own time.
Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I love that, because that can really help us to stop ruminating and worrying so much.
Exactly. And of all the I'm going to call this a self-help tool. Okay, so of all the self-help tools out there that I know of energetically, and there's tons of them, and they're all really wonderful, I find that when you decide to use the gene keys as a transformative self-help tool, it has, wow. I think it's one of the most potent out there. And then, of course, when you come together with a group, because Richard really encourages us to come together, that's why we have a study group, that's why I do the Gene Keys and Gong, and, other people are doing things as well, is because when you come together in group and you have these beautiful, higher elevated discussions, play with the Gene Keys, integrate as you do the constellations work with the Gene Keys, it can really sink deeper into our bodies, into ourselves, into our understanding. So a way that maybe one person in the group understands something, helps everyone else in the group go, oh, and then you feel the whole shift of the group, because we all kind of just receive that transmission from one person's understanding. So I find it to be really powerful in that way. Just to work individually with it, it creates massive change in you. And then when you come together in group, there's an even other level of kind of transformation that happens as well. So it's both an individual and a group transformation modality that I find to be very powerful. But for those that, maybe aren't into groups, but they really want something transformative, I feel like starting with something like the Gene Keys can do some really beautiful, can actually provide some beautiful transformational shift in your life. So that's one thing I really like about it. You just get the book, get the profile, and start playing.
Yes.
Let's get into this Gene Key 53, which is about the gift of it, which is expansion, and share with us what your awarenesses are about this Gene Key right now. and why you chose it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just feeling, I'm like, wow, expansion. It's really, that's really the best part of it, of expansion, is like, it's not something that you really think or do. It's like you allow it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times, sometimes our effort helps us to expand, but mostly, you know, the more we allow ourselves to align and to, you know, to express at a higher level of higher vibration, and meet those, you know, denser things that come up with love. You know, it's really all about softening our existence, softening our way of being with ourselves. Therefore, we can soften our way of being with the world. And that vibrational shift, it really does expand our being, and our connection to the universe becomes much more palpable.
Yeah.
And the synchronicities in our life and the way that we move with each other becomes much more, there's much more freedom and much more synergy. We're more able to benefit each other mutually. And so for me, the reason I chose expansion for now is because in this moment, just today, the sun has shifted into this Jinki. So the planets will move through the Jinkies, you know, periodically, depending on how fast they move. They'll, you know, the sun in particular and the earth moves through it about every 5 or 6 days. So they'll shift from one to another. Okay. But other planets, like the moon, is shifting constantly through different Jinkies, right? So right now, the sun is in the gift of expansion in the Jinki 53, which has the it has the shadow of immaturity, and the highest essence of that Jinki is super abundance.
Yes.
So that's just like so juicy, you know, the super abundance of the universe, and just feeling that connection that we have with that.
Yes.
And allowing ourselves to feel, where are we expanding? And so that brings up, you know, I was talking about contemplation before. For me, this is actually one of mine in my profile. And so it's particularly profound. But even if it's not in your profile, wherever the sun is, wherever the earth is, you know, the different planets, they can inform your contemplation.
Yes.
And so when I feel into this one for myself, it gives me this sense of where is my being expanding, right? And where am I trying to expand, but I'm pushing, right? It's like, you know, and immediately it's like, if I ask for that guidance, I will see it immediately, you know, sometimes in uncomfortable ways, right? Like, oh, okay, I shouldn't be pushing there. I should just back off and let it unfold the way it needs to unfold.
I like that question. So the question is, where am I expanding right now? Mm-hmm. And then the second question would be, where am I pushing to expand? Okay, I love that. Yeah, that's great. So if we sit with contemplating, like, where am I expanding right now? Your awareness could take you to a lot of different places in your life. It could take you inward. It could take you maybe outside into either your business or a relationship with a family member, something along those lines. Is that kind of how, I'm just making sure that when we ask the question, where are you expanding? It's like you're looking at all aspects, internal and external. Is that?
Right. Well, and what will come up is whatever is most actively needing your attention, right? Or where you've been putting your attention most actively. Sometimes it can either be a place where you've been putting your attention, or it can be a place that you haven't been putting and it needs your attention.
Got it.
So, and it can be in any part of it. Like, we're not going to ask for, like, where am I expanding in all aspects of my being all at once? You know, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves by looking at the whole totality of our expansion, but we do want, you know, to understand how we can dance with this expansion energy in a way that helps our flourishing, right? That it moves us towards that superabundance.
Yes, exactly.
Or in alignment with superabundance.
Exactly.
So for me, you know, lately it's been things around parenting and things around my business and where they kind of intersect or don't mesh so well.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's lots and lots of detail that I don't need to go into around that. But, you know, anyone who wants to know more can ask me. You know, I don't mind sharing. Like, just to give a really good example of how contemplation will inform how you make your decisions, noticing how you're showing up and realizing you don't want to show up like that, and you can make an adjustment. You can always choose again.
Exactly. Well, you know, it's interesting that you chose the gift of expansion today, because the word expansion and the energy of expansion is actually a theme throughout the whole year, because Jupiter's playing a really big part in our astrology for the whole year 2019. And Jupiter, of course, aligns with the energy of expansion. And so it was interesting when I was, you know, reading about the gift. It said, I really loved, well, one thing that really hit me about this is that where does he say? He says, from reading the shadow, perhaps you can sense how spiritual this gene key actually is. It really does represent the driving force of evolution as consciousness, as consciousness burrows deeper and deeper into the material life. Life itself knows only expansion. Even when it chooses to contract, it does so only in order to expand further in a new or different direction. And I've been noticing that as a thing personally for myself, areas where I feel, you know, I want to expand, but then I see contraction happening, and then expansion starts to happen in another place in my life. And so it's interesting because we sometimes think things are actually contracting when really they're just being pulled back so that an expansion can open in another part of your life. And so I thought that was really, that was like a key for me today to go, oh, okay, so I see how there's a reason why certain aspects of my business have contracted, so to speak, is because other parts of my business now are wanting to expand. So it really, everything's really actually just expanding. And so the energy of this year is all about allowing it. And as you were saying, it is a surrendering. To me, it feels very deeply just like I just need to surrender to how things want to expand in my life, instead of me trying to force particular things to expand, because that never works anyway. And it's a waste of energy. So was there something having to do with the gift of expansion for you that you feel, besides the question like where in my life are things expanding, maybe a tool or something that could help people with this whole concept of and gift of expansion, like inviting it into their life in a way that's more easeful?
Well, it's interesting that you were saying about like where the contraction is, where the expansion is, because you know the beautiful thing about what you just said is it really illustrates how we can trust the process, and that's something that Richard often will remind us about. It's like even trust the shadows, even trust the contraction, even trust the way things are not moving, or the way things are difficult. Trust that. And the more you trust it, the more you allow it to be for you rather than against you.
Right.
And it really, I mean, that one tool of just like remembering to trust or reminding yourself. I sometimes put signs up in my house to remind me, you know, or whatever tool you need to help you remember, you know, and like, you know, sometimes you get a buddy who we regularly remind each other.
Exactly.
And it's just like, yeah, you can actually, you know, open your heart to hold all of it.
Exactly.
And for me, it's like I constantly have to remember, open my heart to all of it. You know, so it's, you know, it's a process for everyone. No one is more or less advanced on this. We're all on our journey together.
Exactly.
Can I add something to that too?
Oh yeah, please.
I have been looking at vulnerability a lot and openness and exploring that, and I think that has been expanded. Like my ability to stay centered and still be vulnerable is actually an expansion of my muscle.
Yes.
And that hasn't always been easy. And I've been trying to stay open in the heart and say, okay, can I still be open to someone that I can't understand? Or can I, at times, be just really gentle with myself and say, I just need to rest here without any judgment of self or others? So there's just an expansive way of like seeing an old pattern
Yeah.
or an old way of being. So, and I can definitely say that that's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I wanted to mention also about the contemplation was, I remember, and I don't do this the gene keys a lot, but I know that, you know, there's a sense of, even in the work I do with like collage, that if you create a collage and you hang it up and you just let it inform you, or a piece of artwork is still interacting with you, opening the book of the gene keys or looking at your profile, it's constantly talking to you, like everything is alive.
Yes.
So if you see the world like that, or if you see this particular tool that way, then it's just, you don't have to even read it.
Mm-hmm.
It's constantly working with you, and that's a form of contemplation that I had never considered before.
Yeah.
Transmissions and downloads, yes, I had seen it that way, but there's a sense of, there's a visual or an energy of just something just hanging out with you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring those 2 points together.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, you know, it just makes me, I just had a visual right now of a possible tool that anyone could use with the gene keys, and I just forgot. I've used this tool before. I will sit with, let's say I'm working on a particular sphere in my hologenetic profile. Maybe it's on my life's work. And what I just realized is that with the gift of expansion, I could just say to myself, I expand into allowing and containing as much of my gift of lightness as I'm able to contain at this moment.
I like that.
And it's almost like I'm just invoking the gift of that particular sphere to just come in. I'm giving surrender, as Nadra was saying. You surrender to the expansion, you open to it, and you're just like, you know, I expand into my gift of lightness as much as I'm able to in this moment. And so if there are particular, you know, gifts, there's 64 of them with the gene keys that you're wanting to expand more into, it's almost like, to me, it feels like I'm inviting, my energy is inviting in that particular gift or that higher siddhi. In this case, it's rapture. So I expand into as much of the frequency of rapture as I'm able to hold in this moment. And I just feel like, I'm like right
It's
now,
like the sun is sharing its light on you, and you're saying,
exactly.
I'm going to go into and receive that sun ray on
Yes.
of
Yes.
expansion in this aspect of my life.
Yes. So even if you're someone who's not into reading all of the gene keys or anything, but you maybe have just a list of the different gene keys and what they are and their gifts and their higher, you
There's
know.
one in the back of the book.
Yeah, there we go.
These are all of them right here.
That's all you know. Then one way you can use this gift of expansion is to literally surrender into expanding. And then, of course, just for those who maybe aren't interested in delving into the gene keys, but you just want to use the tool of expansion. It sounds like what you're saying, Nadra, is just literally expand into whatever's showing up in life. Like, how much of life can you expand into? How much of life can you let in? Because really what I heard you saying is like, how much of life are you allowing to be? You know, and how much of life are you not allowing to be? So how much are you expanding into life, and how much are you contracting away from aspects of life? So that for me is I could sit there for a couple hours with that one personally, and just sit with that, go, oh.
Yeah, it's like very, very simple, but very profound. Like what it says in the infographic that the Gene Key Society puts out. It says expansion is a process of transcending and including. Right.
I love that. Yes. In fact, in the book, I was going to read a little excerpt here where it says, when you expand too much in a single direction, universal principles will cause the opposite effect of contraction. This is why empires and monopolies ultimately crumble. True expansion also embraces the notion of fractal growth. Fractal growth in business only occurs when the people within the business who represent the consciousness of the organization also evolve. True growth expands beyond its comfort zone. It is continually transcending its last level. When this is allowed to happen, the business grows in many directions simultaneously rather than in a single direction. And I feel that that's not just about business, but it's about us individually as well. Is that if we're focused on, I just want to expand in this direction, then literally a contraction is going to happen somewhere else, instead of saying, I'm willing to expand in all directions in every moment, and just allow it to expand above, below, and that's, I kind of like see a sphere coming out from the center of me, expanding out. Because the truth is, you can't have one thing expanding without affecting other things that also want to expand. So I thought that was really interesting. What you said, that there's always expansion going on, even if it looks otherwise. So what else about expansion or this gift or anything about the gene keys that you would like to share with everyone today?
Well, one of the things that I've been seeing a lot of since since the sun started moving into the gift of expansion is a lot of invitation to grow together, invitation to like look at like how are we moving in abundance with, you know, with our collaboration, with our, how are we being more intertwined in our expression in a way that really expands our ability to make an impact, right? Our ability to do whatever it is we are intending to do in the world. So it's like a very physical kind of like, let's do stuff, let's get stuff done, let's play together, let's collaborate, you know, and then, you know, and even, you know, find ways to make money together. You know, it's not just about expression and about interaction, but it's like really like for real, how do we support ourselves and each other at the same time? Yes. Because we are a superorganism. We do actually have this synergistic capacity where we are much more powerful when we work together.
Exactly. And that kind of moves into the whole siddhi, or the higher expression of superabundance. Exactly. So what do you like, what do you want? I've always loved that word, superabundance, but it doesn't mean what people think it means. So do you want to share a little bit about your understanding of superabundance as that, you know, one of those highest qualities that we all possess, and how it's like linked to expansion?
Yeah, well, I do want to say that everyone is going to, like, whenever I'm asked to interpret something, I just want to give that caveat that, you know, we each have our own, you know, interpretation of things, and that we want to not allow anyone else to invalidate that. So for some reason that wanted to be said. I'm not sure why. Maybe later we'll find out why. But, you know, for superabundance, for me, it's like it has this feeling of like every aspect of the universe is available energetically at all times.
Oh, I love that. Every aspect of the universe is available at all times. That feels very true to me. When I feel that in my body, it's like, yeah, it is. If I allow it.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and for us as physical beings with, you know, perceived physical limitations, you know, we have that dual dance, right? That yes, that's true, and yet we're still in a physical body, and we still are learning how to navigate both.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I loved what you were saying about collaborations, because what I have been noticing lately, and what I've known because I've been doing collaborations for many years, is that it's just so much easier, because literally the energy expands so that not just the one person doing the thing is holding the energy, it literally is shared. between the people that are collaborating, and all of a sudden it's almost like a weight is taken off. I feel that every single time I do any kind of collaboration with anyone or in a group, it's like all of a sudden it's like, everything, it feels more natural, like everything is shared. And so I can see where that energy of expansion automatically invites in this concept of superabundance, because not only have you just, shared in the collaboration, but you're also sharing in all of the beautiful gifts that come with that. That could include money, that could include opportunities, that could include new connections. I keep seeing that a lot lately, because I've decided to really start doing a lot more networking with other people out there in different fields, and I've just been noticing how moving into that energy of just like, well, that would be an interesting collaboration. Well, that would, it's just how it's like, it just feels so much easier, and I can see where the benefits and the gifts can come from pretty much any collaboration, even if it's a small one.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the reasons why I gravitated towards constellation work, as you mentioned before, because there's so much individual work that becomes so much easier when we do it together as a group. And there's so much more that we can shift energetically without having to do it by ourselves. Like, it's just amazing the power of us witnessing each other in our gifts. It expands our abilities like so rapidly. It's amazing. And it helps us transcend our limitations without even trying.
Yes.
So it really, and we don't control it. We don't say, well, if you do this constellation, this will happen. It's just a matter of inviting that in and allowing the collaboration to show us what we can shift together. And then we take that out into the world, into our conscious, because the constellations, for those who don't know, works more in the subconscious fields,
right,
and works with all those aspects of ourselves that are running all the time that we don't actually control. And so we allow those to come into greater alignment with our life force, because we always want to grow. Our systems automatically want to grow when we were designed to flourish. And so that's a group for group work to support our flourishing, speaking of superabundance, we take that into our conscious life, and we start to have much more conscious choice around how we respond to what's going on and how we move towards our intentions.
Exactly. So
I love that.
Constellation. So there may be some people who don't know exactly what this constellation work is. Could you give from your experience, a simple kind of description of what are constellations and how do you? I've experienced your constellations with the Gene Keys, and wow, it just takes everything to the next level. And deep, as you said, subconscious things shift when you bring together these two modalities, or these two energy type. I don't know what you want to call it. But how would you just describe just the constellation aspect?
So it was originally sourced from someone named Bert Hellinger, who in Germany, who had studied with some Zulu tribes in Africa and had observed how they actually support each other. And he brought some of those concepts back, and he developed this way of helping family systems. The way that he started, he's a psychologist, and he's has a scientific background as well, and he's able to kind of observe family systems in a systematic way, and kind of notice how those patterns that people were working with traditionally in Africa, they play out in all family systems, and that we can actually bring support to resolving things that have been passed along from generation to generation, that we're subconsciously playing out these patterns with each other, not wanting to. And we can actually support to resolve those things so that they no longer affect us in our daily life.
Right, exactly.
And so, and that frees up our life force for our higher expression, right? And it helps us to really move into a more powerful conscious choice.
Right.
And so that was what Bert Hellinger did. And so my training is actually in integration constellations, which kind of takes that idea of a family system and it looks at us, you know, internally as a system as well. So the different parts of the family are no longer family members, they're actually different parts of our being, different aspects of our expression. So that fits really well with the gene keys because those are different aspects of our expression, different parts of our life that are in the profile, and also different gene keys in our own physical system. And so it really, I really found it to be magical when we allow ourselves to use those constellation tools.
Yeah.
To express different things in our own being. And that's the thing that, you know, like I said in the beginning, the gene keys really gives us a tool to kind of witness ourselves in our own being, but also in the world. So our relationship to ourselves can have more conscious and higher vibrational awareness.
Yeah.
And that helps us to how we integrate in the world and how we see the world as well.
Yeah.
And so it's both, right? It's again, I was talking about macrocosm and microcosm. You know, it's like whatever's within us is also outside of us. So we often will see things outside of us that are actually telling us about our own internal being. So oftentimes when we're working with our gene keys, we will say, oh, I see someone playing out this shadow, and I see that this is my shadow in my being. And that really it speaks to the practice that many other teachers have taught before or that I heard of before I ever even found the gene keys, which is that, you know, when we're seeing patterns outside of ourselves, we need to actually look within to be empowered in our response. We need to look within. What is that saying about me? What am I doing that's bringing that pattern to me?
Exactly. I know that that I've experienced this combination of both the gene keys and your integration constellations at some of our study groups that we've had in the past. So I don't know what your plan is for our study group for this month, but it would be fun to bring together a gene keys and constellation experience for people who maybe want to just, because it's one of those things that it's about the experience. You know, you can talk about it all day long and people will be like, huh? It's not until you've actually experienced it that you're like, oh. And you have that kind of understanding actually at your cellular level. So anyway, but yeah, that would be something definitely fun to do at some point soon, if it's not going to be this month, but inviting people to experiencing what that is, so that it's less in the head and literally more of an experience in the body. That I feel is what creates, at least what I've been noticing, profound shift can happen when we allow the awarenesses to literally come into the body, where we actually feel it in the body. It feels like it anchors in more deeply, and it makes shift happen, I think, on such a more kind of quantum leap level. That's why I love that whole combination that you brought together, both the gene keys and the integration constellations, because it literally does help you integrate, you know, your gifts. It helps you integrate all aspects of your shadows. It helps you integrate, you know, the highest angelic qualities you have. It actually helps you integrate that in a way that just you can feel it in your body. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, it grounds into your being. It's like it's metaphoric language. It's like, how do you literally, like, you just feel it. It feels like it's sinking into you. You can breathe and relax. You don't have to try so hard.
Exactly. And that's what I like. The less trying, the better. So I wanted to open up for anyone on the call who has a question. You can either type it into the chat or you can unmute yourself. If you have questions, if you have some awarenesses you want to share, if you have any questions about this gift 53 of the gene key that we were talking about earlier, about constellations, Any questions that anyone here has, Africa or Tina? Or anything you just want to share?
I just had another thing. I think there's this quote about stars before they're birthed. They kind of pull back and then they explode. So I just had that kind of an image about this, like the contraction before the birth. So so as a different way of looking at expansion and about allowing for the contraction. And I have difficulty with that sometimes, where you're really allowing the momentum to kind of catapult you, and you don't have to, like Nadra was saying, have effort.
Right.
It's just letting the momentum of the energy propel whatever wants to be burst in your life right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just, that just came to me as a really good reminder to just really be in the body, allowing the movement, allowing the, and I've been getting this message a lot, like what you want wants you.
Yeah.
You know, that Rumi quote, and when and so there's a sense of, like you were saying before, like everything is alive, everything is wanting to interact with you, and so it's just letting yourself really be aware of that and letting that in and receiving it and letting the momentum take you. So.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I love what you shared earlier, also in relation to this very thing, where you were talking about having like visual, energetic, like visual things like a collage, or there's other tools. You know, the gene keys are connected to animals, they're connected to crystals. So there's actually like indexes where you can look up which gene key is which animal or which crystal, and those are ways that you can just bring those vibrational frequencies into your environment without having to, without having to figure it out or to consciously like hold that word in your mind. So it's really fun to be able to play with those tools. And it can get it's I really encourage everyone to, even though it can get really complex because there's just so much of it, like you could just spend all your time just doing the animals and the birds, and it would be so much fun. So, and I really encourage anyone who's approaching this to just do that. Just pick one thing and just play with it and let it speak to you, whatever is the most fun for you, whatever that feels most nourishing.
Yeah.
And just give it that intention that it nourishes you and that it provides support for your flourishing. That really helps a lot to just allow just one thing to inform. I mean, if you look at like that list that I showed you, it's really hard to pick one because the words are so beautiful. Mm-hmm. And there's always going to be more than one thing that calls your attention, but it really is powerful to just pick one and just play with
collage too. I often have people focus on one part of the collage. So if you looked at the hologenetic profile, which I have on my phone right now, maybe there's one word on your profile that is just juicy and wanting attention, and so let that just love on you.
Yes.
The rays of that come in.
I love. I don't know. Do you remember this, Nadra, when we did that art?
Oh yeah.
When I focused on just what Tina just said, I focused on only one Siddhi, which is my life's work, which is rapture. And what came up is this kind of interesting piece of art that has rapture in it. And I keep it actually right here by my desk as a reminder, because this is my work. This is where I work. And it was just kind of the colors and everything that came in for that particular Siddhi. So there's so many ways to actually incorporate Gene Keys into art, since Tina, I know you're an artist. By, like you said, just focusing on one gift, one Siddhi, one aspect, and then letting it expand through you in collage, in painting, in sculpture.
And I am willing to do a collage Gene Keys collaboration at any point, so you just let me know. I'm ready. So if someone wants to do that, what's fun about that is you find images. You don't have to be an artist.
Exactly.
And you're bringing your inner soul is guiding the whole process. So if there's a particular gene key we're working on or aspect of your profile, you can create an image that deepens that for you.
I love that.
To you.
Yes. Oh,
Just
I love
let me know.
Yes, yes, let's do it.
an image that, I love that, an image that deepens the meaning of that particular gene key for you. Because sometimes the gene keys can be kind of abstract, and it's hard sometimes for me to have like an image of what that might look like, and for me to actually create that on paper.
Like, so for example, expansion,
Yeah.
you just said expansion. So for me, that might be the ocean.
Yeah.
Because I love the ocean. This is a symbol that's special for me. And so I might be unconsciously or subconsciously picking water images for my collage that represent expansion.
I love
then
that.
I can visually look at it, and then I'm activating all of my senses,
Yes.
bringing in that attribute in my life.
Oh, I love that. Wow. Okay, we're gonna have to do this.
Yes,
I'm ready.
that's powerful. I mean, talk about a way to allow yourself to look deeper and to bring awareness. I mean, that's a really powerful process. And I've experienced your collage classes before, and they are amazing and what they can help to bring up and shift. I mean, you know, it's right up, you know, it's like as powerful a tool as constellation work in terms of bringing up those healing things.
Exactly.
And the movement that needs to happen.
Yes, absolutely. And I know Africa had a question too. Tina, are you complete? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Okay. Africa, you said you had a question. I'd love for you to hear.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily have a question, but I did want to share, which who knows, it may turn into a question.
Okay.
I know that my experience with the gene keys as I got into it was going to classes with you and with Nadra, and really learning more, and then stopped. So Nadra, I really feel you on that. You just kind of like, let me take a step back. And then I got back into it again, and really, it was kind of like, and I know this is kind of like my energy. I just dive head first into things and kind of went through and read everything and started to see all the connections.
Yeah.
And saw the threads through my life. And that was, and where a possibility of where I could go. So it really, as I went through and sat with the gene keys and meditated and had my not speaking to anyone 48 hours with the gene keys, right? That I saw all these possibilities that were exciting, that brought up things that I'd seen for myself in the past and didn't understand until I went through this process with the gene keys. So for me, it was a lot of confirmation, a lot of remembering and possibilities. And it just felt comforting. So everyone has their own way of going through and really connecting. And I think I just want to point that out.
Yes.
Because it's really good to focus on just one, like expansion. And then I think at times it's like, no, I've just got to do this full body. And get submerged. So that's what I want to share.
Oh, thank you, Africa. I loved what you shared, because I've had moments of, doing a dive into the gene keys all day long, just that I literally think of it as like a gene key shower, energy shower. It's like something, like I literally could sometimes feel them calling me, like, we have something for you. Hello, hello, we have something for you. I like literally sometimes feel the book calling me. And then I'll be, okay, so what do you have for me today? And I will use the book. And those of you that are in the study group, you know this, I use the book as an oracle. So if I get pulled in some way like that, like hearing the gene keys whisper to me, I'll usually grab the book and just say, okay, what is it? And I'll open it, and then I'll read what's on the page, and ta-da! It's like exactly whatever the transmission or awareness or something that was needing some awareness, it just literally shows up on the pages. So for instance, the other day I was actually talking with another Gene Keys ambassador, and I was going to be giving a talk, which I just did last night. and it was going to be on feminine presence. And so a couple of days before, I kept feeling the Gene Keys calling me, like, okay. And I was looking at my profile, but that wasn't it. And I'm like, so I just got the book and just literally I opened it, and there we go, presence. I opened it to the gift of, or the city of presence. And I was like, oh, wow. And so, of course, I read and received that transmission before I did my talk yesterday to really move me more into alignment with that energy, that frequency. And I really do feel it really made a difference. So the more time you spend with the Gene Keys, the more you can sense it when it's calling you that it has something for you. So it truly is a live transmission. It's always alive. It's always moving. And so as you stay sensitive to feeling it and have, like, I keep the book where I can visually see it all the time. It'll pull you. I keep my hologenic profile right where I can grab it, because sometimes I'll be pulled to, like, something's going on in my life right now and I feel like the Gene Keys can tell me what it is. And then I'll grab my hologenic profile, I'll look at it, and I'll be like, oh, look, there we go, my shadow of whatever is showing up right now. And then that helps me to put it in perspective that clearly something wants to move and grow there. So that's one of the ways that I have noticed the Gene Keys work with me, that reminded me when Africa was sharing. It's like we all work with the Gene Keys, and it works with us uniquely. So it really is a beautiful co-creation between you and the Gene Keys, that it's a dance that you both do together, so to speak. I don't know, Nadra, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, it reminds me a lot of the different aspects in the profile, like just the one sphere of IQ informs how we think about things, and what we need for our own growth, to like how we need to take time to look at whatever information is coming in.
Yeah.
Each person with a different aspect. There's 6 aspects to your IQ besides your Gene Key itself, and those will be like, you have the contemplative mind that really is like, it just has to just let go and just kind of take time to slowly let things percolate, not too much stimulation. Then there's the second one is called the brilliant mind. It's not so much brilliant in terms of, like, I mean, it's not any smarter than the rest, but it has this way of shining the light on certain things. And so it's kind of leaping to conclusions and always like, it's always, it has to like put connections together all the time. Yeah. And then the third one is the flexible mind, where it's really about kind of like, it's weaving in with whatever's coming in. It's like, it can look at it this way, it can look at it that way, and it really needs to kind of change its mind, in order to get to a place where it's good with whatever's going on. So it's just one example of how the Gene Keys can like help you to hone, like, oh, that's what I need. It's fine that I work differently from other people. It's fine that I need a different approach.
Yes.
So, and it helps you to like really meet your own needs and have a better relationship with your own way of being.
Yes, exactly. I find it to be it just makes me feel better about myself. Like, oh, okay, I have these shadows, but other people have these shadows too. But look, I've got all these wonderful gifts and all these wonderful higher angelic qualities too. Wow, I don't need to feel so bad about myself right now. So I really like that. It actually helps you look at yourself as a true, evolving being who's always who's always in the process of evolving, of expanding, and that no particular shadow, no particular thing that's going on is really bad. That I love that the Gene Keys really shows you that everything is actually a good thing. Everything is really love expanding. Everything is just really love expressing itself. Because in the end, if I had to say, what is the Gene Keys? Well, it's a map to love. It's a map to loving yourself. It's a map to loving humanity. It's a map, that says that everything is love. It just expresses itself in unique ways, even through the shadows. So that, if I have to like put it all into one thing, I'm just going to say love. It's love.
Love. Yes. And you know, connection in the broadest sense too. And that brings me to what I wanted to remember to say before I get distracted, is that we will be doing this work together and in connection with each other. And that you know, everyone who's here, everyone who hears this later on is invited to come and participate in whatever way works for you. We do have the Gene Keys Austin group that meets every third Friday. So that would be July 19th, which I'm still trying to, I will be sending out the email to confirm that, because I need to get the location nailed down. Okay. But if it's not the 19th, it'll be the 26th. And then August's group is August 23rd. That's for sure. We'll do it August 23rd. And so, you know, I hope that, you know, we can explore these things together and really nourish each other in these group experiences. Also, I would like to offer to do some weekend intensives. We may collaborate if that works. Yeah. But the weekend intensives are really an opportunity for us to really come together with that group work and the collage work and the other tools that we have, and to really experience them in a way that's much easier, that doesn't require quite such a large, you know, amount of willpower.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And you know, right before, when I was tuning in today about the Gene Keys and our call, I'm just going to put it out there. I got this huge hit to combine a Shasta Gene Keys experience. Ooh. I want to feel that and see if that's you, because I was like, oh my gosh, yes, Gene Keys and Shasta and nature. Are you kidding me? Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
So if that feels
good, that feels good.
Yeah. So if that feels good, then I'm just putting it out there so that those that are called, those who watch this replay, those who are like, ooh, that feels good to me too, let me know, and we can start beginning to come together with dates and collaboration and all of that, about having a powerful Shasta experience in combination with the Gene Keys. I just can't even imagine.
Oh my gosh. The Shasta energy is so nourishing. I mean, it's y'all just, I would love it if we could experience that together. It's really profound.
I can see you doing a constellation Gene Keys thing right there on the mountain.
Yes.
With nature support. I mean, I'm sure we'll all just blast off into, you know.
Yeah, that mountain has the way of just blasting you open in this really, really wonderful way that doesn't take you out of your body, and it just really, really nourishes your physical being and back into your life, and it really helps support you.
Yeah.
So I love that idea. Good idea.
It feels really good. I was like, okay, we're stating this out there into the universe, so that if it's supposed to manifest, things will start falling into place for it to manifest.
Yeah, you just recently were there, right, Linda?
Oh, I was just there maybe 2 weeks ago, actually. And it was beautiful, it was profound, and it was so interesting that, you know, we were there last year, but except a week earlier, we were there during the solstice. I think Tina, you, and Nadra were there as part of that retreat that Gwendolyn did. And it's interesting because every single time, those of you who've gone to Shasta more than once, it is a different experience, like completely every single time. So this year, we got there a week later after the solstice, so there weren't as many people, which was great. However, they'd had lots of snow, so we literally, you know, could not get to horse camp at all. I mean, we literally went up, you know, maybe the first couple of feet right after that little tree where we did our little ritual that time. I mean, you get stopped right there. The trails are covered. You couldn't even see a trail because they were all covered in ice and snow. So we didn't even get to go up to horse camp this year, but we did spend time there, and I took everybody to a different location where we had an even more powerful kind of energetic downloads at a vortex point that a lot of people don't know about, called Ascension Rock. And so we went there instead. So it was interesting how we have our ideas, but then the mountain tells you what its idea is. and then you just do that. But it was really, really very profound and still beautiful and powerful, even though we weren't able to actually do the climb this year. It was really interesting. So I don't know how much the snow has melted since then. So part of me is like, do I have to go back in August or September? Because even Panther Meadows, which we couldn't go to last year, again, it was closed again because there's literally 2 or 3 feet of snow you'd have to march through. Just
Wow.
yeah. So that part of the mountain wasn't even available.
Oh.
So yeah, so it's interesting how each time you go to a place like that, it has its own plan for you. That's even better than what you had planned. So anyway, but yeah, so if that is something that those of you who are watching or those of you who, are new to the Gene Keys and this just sounds really amazing, yeah, definitely get a hold of me or Nadra. And Nadra, what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you? I'm going to type it into the chat.
So my email is NADRADEE, Nadra D, at gmail.com.
Okay.
And that, the easiest way is just to text me, 512-917-4940. But yeah, if you want it, 4940.
Great.
Yeah, for anyone wanting to, find out more about the events that we're going to be doing, or if you want to come to the group, any questions you have, or, any questions about your own profile, or, anything that you wanted to hear more about that we talked about today, just reach out, feel free. I'm here.
Yay. And then we have a Gene Key study group, the 18th, location to be announced, and then another Gene Key study group, August 23rd, usually on the 3rd Fridays. And then you're going to be putting together some weekend intensives. So then as people subscribe to your list, and they'll be able to get all that information. And also to remind everybody, just go on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, and just search Austin, like Gene Keys Austin, and just ask to join that Facebook site. And we also post on there when the meetings are and things like that. So, and plus you can even chat with other people about, hey, what do you think about Gene Key number so? This has been my thought, and see who interacts with you there. Because we have people that are not just here in Austin, but we have people who joined that particular Facebook group that are Gene Keyers from other parts of the world as well.
Mm-hmm. And there's also, there's other Gene Keys groups. There's also the Gene Key Society website. There's a lot of information. So just allow your intuition to guide you to the right spot. I would say stick with either the Gene Keys groups on Facebook or the official Gene Keys Society or the official genekeys.com, because that's where you'll get the most accurate Gene Keys information.
Exactly. Because yeah, there's other stuff out there that's kind of weird. That's not really.
Not the same. It can look like it's the same, but it's not really. It's a different source.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So any last things you want to share, Nadra, before we go?
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much. Love you all. And I hope that if you need anything, you'll reach out and that you will bring your own personal brand of magic to the group.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Nadra, for sharing with us about the Gene Keys, about this beautiful energy of expansion. And also how people can play with you and play with us. And for those that have ideas, maybe I've noticed that there's some people out there that are actually doing Gene Keys on their own. They don't even know that there's groups, here in Austin and things like that. So if you're someone who's like a solo Gene Keyer out there and you want to, connect with others who are who also are lovers of the Gene Keys, we invite you to join us with us. Or to invite us to the things you're doing. So I know there's people out there doing Gene Keys things. We would love to assist and support and participate too. So if that's one of you out there, please let us know. Well, say thank you so much to Nadra. Thank you to Tina in Africa for being here and all those who watch the replay later.
Thank you both.
All of you. I ask that you all be blessed with the beautiful energy of expansion this year, 2019. In all areas of your life that right now your soul is wanting to expand into. asking that whatever aspects of you need to surrender to that, we invite that surrender in with lots of grace, with lots of ease. And we release out any ways that we've been forcing, pushing, trying, efforting, and instead move into a place of just loving acceptance, loving allowance, loving embrace of what is right here in this moment, so that the expansion is easier. So we're just inviting that in. I'm going to seal everyone in light, letting this energy shower you with lots of love. And with that, I just say thank you, thank you, thank you. It is done. It is done. It is done. All right. You all have a beautiful, beautiful week through this eclipse gateway that's going on. And I'm going to be doing something on Tuesday of next week on the day of the eclipse. I think I'm going to be coming together with some of you. Remember her, Cherie Mason, who's originally from Australia. She's now living in Sedona. I was connecting with her, and it looks like we're going to probably be doing some wonderful, amazing offering on the actual eclipse day to assist us with that beautiful energy. So anyway, if that's of interest, let me know, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, Africa. Bye, Tina. Mwah.
Bye. Yeah.